So, hello everybody. It's Douglas coming to you from Cape Town, and today we're talking to Jeff and Pepper, apparently, in Boston, Massachusetts. Good morning, Pepper. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Douglas. Pepper sends his regards from the other side of the world, of course.
Of course. So definitely we know that animals love to steal the show, and they always do well with that. They're probably much more entertaining than we are anyway.
I find that if I'm at a party, the first place that I go always is the pets. It works out well for me.
Well, it's lucky that you even get invited to parties. I just don't get invited.
Yeah, beyond 2020, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I'm just putting
Parties.
stuff out there. How has your year been so far?
2020 has been the most challenging and best year of my life.
Hmm. So,
And
so, so
it
give
has
us that
been
duality, because I think that is quite often we will discover that when we have challenge and we deal with it well, then it becomes a great year or a great achievement. But when we have challenge and we get smacked in the head, we don't think it's so great. So, challenge with great year. Tell us more.
Yeah, so 2020 has been the year. 20 has been the year where I have really shed a lot of the beliefs that had held me back for a very long time. That's really been that's been the most profound part of the year. Was in March. I had traveled to Hong Kong to teach an RPR clinic. And in so doing, essentially threaded the pandemic needle, where everything in the U.S. was open, everything in Hong Kong had just reopened after their first lockdown, and when I essentially dropped into a community of people in Hong Kong that, frankly, reminded me of a community of people that reminded me of what it was of the way that I felt in deactivated clinics and the way that I felt at the very best PR clinic, where it was I was surrounded by people who were living what we experience in those those profound experiences that happen in a clinic, that like kind of sacred space that we cultivate.
Yeah.
um, I spent a week with people who live in that space
Oof.
and have cultivated that in their life, and that proved to me that that was something that was possible.
Hmm.
And I essentially, on my way to Hong Kong, I said this 1,000 times, and I've kind of undercut myself by saying it sounds corny, but it's also very true. On my way to Hong Kong, I left the beliefs that had held me back in the airport, um, and I was able to be fully present and fully myself, and seeing the way that my presence and myself was accepted by other people. Really profound experience. So that lit a fire under me to it lit a fire under me that I could that the things that had held me back, and things that had prevented me from opening my practice, from really trusting myself that I could do this without, and I could really put myself into this work, trusting myself to do that, that I could trust myself to do that needed to. So in the midst of the pandemic, I come back, and in August opened Just Breathe Manual Therapy, which is my massage therapy practice, where I'm working, actually. I'm working on really building those spaces in, hour and a half, 2 hour chunks of fostering a space with another person where they can realize themselves, become curious about themselves, and that and trusting myself to hold that space. So that's been the best. It has literally been the best thing that has happened to me in my life, is taking, like, building on some experiences that I had over the past 7 years, trusting my experience, and trusting myself to do well with that experience.
That's huge.
So
well, that's magical, because it's I've obviously, how long ago was the first Be-Activated clinic that you did?
Was that, I think that was 2017.
Yeah.
It was 2017, Chicago.
And what was my famous line that I used on you when you did your check-in?
Oh, that was your. I forget if this one was, because I think you gave me a little bit of both the monologue and the monologue line and the guru line. Possibly both of them, which would have been about right.
I'm sure it was.
It was the idea that
you were just looking for a cult.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was monologuing my way into looking for a cult. I think that might have been. I think it might have been the combination of those two.
And you certainly did that, because, as you said, you're in Hong Kong teaching RPR, and were instrumental with RPR, heading it up and guiding it until it was time to be in a different place.
Yeah, it was, and I don't think there's anything wrong with joining a cult. is what I realized.
I would like to join one.
Right, you don't have to think. Someone else does the thinking for you. Do what you're told. But that intervening time between 2017 and 2020 was being in the cult, but also learning how the cult worked.
Yep.
And then realizing that it was that we're all human beings, and that
it took you that long to figure out that we're all human beings. Now I'm concerned.
I realize there's I think there's
could go, wow, dude, that's
knowing
deeply
and doing.
profound, but what does that mean? What does that mean, that we're all human beings?
It's less about somebody else and more about myself. As most things are. Most profound sounding statements are just talking about ourselves, or at least for me. It was realizing that that my journey, my path, my experience of life is valuable on its own. And it doesn't require the context of another or the approval of someone else to have value. And I'd mentioned this to you in a email. I actually mentioned it to JL as well. I've come so far into, I feel like in the past year, I've developed such comfort in myself in a way that I had previously, so that when I listened to you and JL on the podcast, and I was struck, and I had a very visceral reaction, because as I'm listening to the two of you talk, I realized how insecure I've been. And even in those places where I felt so empowered and so strong in the times that we spent together, it was striking to me how much insecurity had underpinned what I brought to those relationships, what I brought to those times we spent together. And it shocked me. It really, really threw me for a loop. And I was genuinely genuinely baffled, because it didn't feel so different. and or I didn't realize how different it was. So.
And if we interpret what you just said, because that's pretty powerful, looking back and recognizing that, you've said in Hong Kong you found you could put stuff down and be completely present. But if you were to take insecurity into any interaction or any relationship, well, insecurity means you're in your fight, flight, or freeze. And if you are in a state of survival, the ability to be present is zero. You can't do it because your brain is constantly running off trying to strategize on how to stay safe, how to connect, how to say the right thing, how to do this. I think that's really profound that you look back and you go, wow, I was there, now I'm here. So that's a before, an intervention, and an after. That's why it's important that you can look back and reflect and see how far you come. So wow, I salute you. That really is part of the awareness and the being present, is the ability to look at where we've come and look at where we were, and also you sharing it, and thank you for sharing that, because that is a big thing. But you're sharing it with insight and but without judgment. So instead of going, oh God, look at me, look, I was such an idiot, look what I was doing. You're going, this is where I was at. I'm not there anymore. That's powerful, dude.
Thanks. It is. It's really powerful, and it's powerful to experience. Mm-hmm. And that was something that you and I had talked about. We talked about probably over the summer. Probably in July or August. We talked about the way that our clients and ourselves experience our lives, what our kind of lived experiences. And for so many people prior to 2020, and I think myself included, in some respects, we're feeling very little because there's so much momentum, and we were living in that momentum. And then when everything comes to
labeling the momentum as being in the now. So mislabeling it, because everyone's like, I'm here, man. No, dude, you're not. But it's, you don't know what you don't know.
Not here. You're half a second ahead of here. Yeah. Like you're very close.
Yeah.
And then everything, and then someone, the world pulls the emergency brake, and all of a sudden people are left feeling so much, and because they're forced into the present, and that reckoning has been, I think that reckoning has been a profound cultural moment that we can learn so much from.
But I would say that, there are people who will say, yeah, we are learning a hell of a lot because of this time period and all the pressure that's created. But that's true for actually quite a small portion of the world, because there are certainly people, and they, who are, inverted commas, waking up and connecting more deeply. But you know what? I'm not sure it's the majority. I'm sure my sense is it's quite a small minority. And those are people who are already in places of searching and discomfort. They hadn't quite realized yet that they were looking for something else. But there are a lot of people who are still sitting in the waiting game. In fact, it's a cat in a hat. I'm trying to think which one it is, but it's oh, the places you will go. And there's a whole thing about, and sometime you'll land in the waiting place, a most useless place, waiting for a train to come or a plane to go. I've just got the rhythm. I can't remember the words. Everyone's just waiting. And I'm watching a world, and sometimes I feel like I'm doing that. As I said to you when we checked in just before this, I feel the last 2 weeks, I've just suddenly gone and felt like in this whole year, it's the first 2 weeks of my life where I've almost waited for someone to give me an answer, someone to tell me it'll be okay. I've had, even this morning, somebody messaged me, when are you coming to the UK? When are you traveling? I don't know. Why don't I know? Because the world doesn't know. Because you can make the greatest plans in the world, and tomorrow someone somewhere else will make a rule, right or wrong, and you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's kind of, we're all living in this wonderful sea of uncertainty. And you know, it's there are no clear reference points, which means Sue and I chatted, I'm not sure if it was in our interview, but I know we chatted about it, where, you know, when someone's seasick, you find a point that's not moving and you focus on it, and your seasickness goes away, because the sea of uncertainty shifts immediately that you can find that reference point.
Mm-hmm.
And really the only place to find a reference point that ain't going to shift and ain't going to move would be here inside ourselves. And so when you get that, then the uncertainty can prevail around you and you're okay. When you disconnect to yourself, then you have to seek your certainty outside of it. And because right now in the world, there ain't that much, people are struggling, people are getting overwhelmed. And yeah, it's quite something.
It is. And I really appreciate that turning inward is something that we have to do in order to find certainty in this world.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that what you mentioned as we checked in, that you referenced, of like, you know, I just kind of feel like crap. You can, like, turning inward doesn't mean that you don't feel like crap.
Yeah.
Like, turning inward doesn't mean that you don't feel miserable, and sometimes, and it doesn't mean that you don't feel hopeless. It doesn't. The reference point, you know, if you're seasick, and to carry this one out, just because you can see the horizon doesn't mean that you're not dry, that your boat's not in a storm.
For sure.
And like, it's like, it doesn't, it's like, yeah, the weather is garbage. We're getting tossed around. Like, I'm not going to throw up, but I am, because I have the horizon, but it doesn't make the experience of being on the boat any more pleasant.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I think I like that, because you know, you always have to have all sides. So you know, somebody wants to feel more, someone wants more freedom. You know, with great freedom comes great responsibility, all of these wonderful things. But I want to feel more. What they're actually saying is, I want to feel more good stuff. So you have to say that. But when you want to feel more is good and it's bad. It's joy and it's pain. It is the sadness and the heartache. Sometimes because you know more, it hurts more. But because you can go there, you can also come out of it. And I think that the ability to know, to feel, and to identify, and even go, I'm today, right now, I'm feeling sad. That doesn't mean the label is Doug is a sad sod. Could be, but you know, if I'm stuck in it, if every day I wake up and I don't even know I'm sad anymore because I live there, that is my default, then it almost becomes a label I live with. But if in this moment I'm sad, and I know that if I want to move beyond it, I can. But if I want to reside in it and have what I like to call a pity party, have a little pity party, feel sorry for myself, I can sit there and do that too, knowing that is okay, because it's still part of the experience that I'm given to feel, because all of that is good. If we spend our lives trying never to go there, it's really hard work. And then you have to come up with a whole lot of strategies, which are actually survival strategies, on how not to feel pain, how not to feel sad, how not to feel mad, and always be glad. I see I'm still in cat in the hat mode. And those end up being high level of alert, high level of focus, and now you can't let go. Now you can't rest, recover, because you're always trying to spend your time avoiding this, avoiding that, avoiding looking bad.
Yeah. It reminds me of Carl Jung talks about the shadow. where for all parts of our personality that for the parts of our personalities we express, likely that we likely have we have an opposite side. And the idea that you can, that you only be happy, or the only bring joy and joy, right? You bring the joy out, you all that, like you have, their sadness exists, like the opposite feeling is there, and you can only bias so far towards towards joy without experiencing sadness.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing, and this is something I used to run away from, feeling sad, from sadness. I was terrified of it. And the more that I learned how to feel sad, to feel grief, to feel pain, at a deep personal level, the more I was able to really experience joy, and the more that I was able to really experience connection, and to actually feel and experience love.
Well, because you have a reference point, and the reference point actually is the opposite of what you're feeling. So what is extreme joy? It's that much further away from extreme sadness or depression, whatever it would be. And the further along, the more extreme that is, the more intense you're going to feel both. So you can have great joy, but you have to have the opposite of that sitting on the other side, and it's okay. I think we grow up being told that no, those things aren't right. Years ago, 15, 16 years ago, I did a program called the Mankind Project. Our group, of a smaller group of men, we're still together. We meet every 2 weeks, and it's a place where men come together to hold each other accountable and say, dude, you can't do that, or awesome, the very thing that men are not overly good at. So it's been an incredible space for me. But one of the things that was spoken about on that weekend was late at night. They had a big torch, and the guy doing the presentation was like, when you move towards the light, notice what happens. So basically, you've got the torch facing onto the wall, and as the guy approaches the torch, approaches the light, all the good stuff, behind him the shadow grows. And and the interesting part was exactly the opposite. Is when he moved away from the light, the shadow got smaller and the light got bigger. And it was like, dude, that's an interesting. I'm a visual thinker, so it was like, yeah, holy crap. I'm at that point of my life. I was learning stuff in 100 different directions, but I was very much into the energy medicines and all of these things, doing this and how we move energy, and everyone was talking about the light. Move towards the light, let the light embrace you, la da da da. And all I went was, I can see what's happening now. It's the intent is right. But there's lacking the recognition of the duality of life. If there's an up, it only exists because there's a down, So it's it's cool. And actually also, I think it's still in other places you will go. You see, I've gone cat in the hat in my head, unfortunately. And it's all about that remember that life is a great balancing act. So be your name, Mordechai, Ali Van Shay, Mordechai, Ali Van. There's a whole lot. Sorry, I'm just mad in my head. I'm going to have to go find the damn book.
If I had kids, I feel like I would be there. It's been much longer since I've read The Places You'll Go.
Yeah. And but there's so much wisdom in that stuff. And the thing is, it's about this great balancing act. And Other Places You'll Go is literally about, you're going to have the highs, you're going to be the winningest winner of all. And then there are going to be times when you won't, because sometimes you won't, and these things will happen to you. It happens. And the thing is that when we run away from the experience of what's in front of us, then that's when we stop living. It doesn't matter what the experience is. I've seen people sitting quietly doing something which could appear quite arbitrary, so intent and so completely consumed by what they're doing, that they could be doing the hugest adventure sport. They could be bridge jumping because their system is feeling that level of intensity and passion and connection, where somebody else goes, that'll kill me, but I'm going to go jump off a bridge because that'll make me feel alive. Okay. and it's like, we're playing with the neural system, and we're playing with what's possible in the world, in our world. And this is the thing, being human beings, each one of us is different. And it's like, what is it? What is that place that you want to be met, or where you, when you meet, find an activity or a place or a thing that you do where you know yourself and you find yourself, and then you can bring it back to the world. You just happen to have to go to Hong Kong.
It's exactly it. And it's something, what's interesting is as you shared that story and kind of reasoned that through. So one thing that I've probably the most important part of my relationship with my wife, the thing that draws both of us so strongly together, is we both get such joy out of seeing somebody do something that they're really good at, something that they really care about. And for such a long time, I felt alone in that, where it's like, I want to watch the bartender make a drink that I want to watch a bartender express themselves through a drink that they're making. I want to watch a chef that's expressing themselves through the food that they're making, not because it's going to be, and of course everything is going to be a reference to other human being, because there hasn't been a whole hell of a lot of that this year. But it can also be something as like relatively inane as like how somebody taught making a website, right? Like, or anything. It's that expression of that expression of self that comes through, where somebody can find creativity, and this expression of self that comes through where someone can find creativity in whatever works for them. And when they can express that process, whether it's in the stone carving that you were doing earlier this year, or watching a magician demonstrate mastery of what they're doing. That's a muscle that we can all learn to develop, and it's a visual, like we can all learn to perceive that in other people, and we can find find those tiny moments of joy.
Yeah, but here's the picture. I have 3 barmen, and they each are going to make the same drink with exact same ingredients, with the exact same amount. And when those 3 barmen put their drinks before you, you taste them. Do they taste equal? Are they the same? Yes or no?
Am I watching the drinks being made?
You could be. Let's say no. You don't get to watch, because you've obviously expressed your joy in witnessing somebody do that.
In the witnessing, yeah.
But you've also witnessed people making drinks where you can see their indifference.
Yeah.
So here's, I'm going to reframe through Doug's mindset, and I'll tell you why. So my answer would be no, those 3 drinks are going to be totally different. The reason why is because the opposite, what is the opposite of indifference?
Oh, love is the opposite.
Love.
Everyone
knows the opposite.
I honestly think hate and love are both opposite of indifference.
Yeah.
Passion is the opposite of indifference.
Yeah. Indifference is just hardcore, but
Yeah.
I, for my whole life, love asking people to make me a cup of tea, because tea is not difficult. Tea, hot water, tea bag, and do you want milk with it? Do you not? I don't have sugar. I have a lot of milk. It's not difficult. But yet, I judge you on your tea. I've done this my whole life. The reason why is because we put ourselves into what we do. We put ourselves into the way we touch our client when we work. And if you put indifference or expectation or blah, 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 well, the system feels it. Now, someone listening might go, wow, this dude is whacked as hell. Well, the answer is yes, completely. But if we go and look at Dr. Emoto's work on water and molecules and the emotions in water, well, that would make sense. And considering my cup of tea is water, therefore, my energy, my intent influences my cup of tea. But how much of you is water there, Jeff?
About 70%, 75%,
Yeah,
something like that.
At least. So therefore, just by arriving in a better place in ourselves, at least a place of integrity. The integrity is, I feel like shit today. Awesome. The ownership of it makes it better already. I don't have to always be happy when I'm working. I can be in a bad place, but as long as I own it in myself, there's an integrity in what we do. But for me, I think what I heard you say is you like watching people putting love into what they're doing. That's what passion is. And that has an energy that draws you. Now I'm just putting Doug's filter on it. So you might be going, no, that's not what I was saying, which is possible. But it's like, so if we have that much possibility, which is why we know somebody can walk into a space and the space suddenly gets lighter and freer and everyone's more comfortable, and somebody else can walk into a space and suddenly everything tightens up and locks up. And we feel it whether we acknowledge it consciously or not. So when therapists are saying to me, yeah, but you keep talking about creating safe spaces, what does it mean? You need to wake up a little bit more to think about what that means. How do you create an environment that's first and foremost for you is safe, so that when somebody comes into that space, you can remain safe? Because if you're unsafe in the space that you are working to help somebody, you're never going to bring your best self. And it's such a wonderful thing, because then it allows you to bring your creativity, your curiosity, your love, your whatever, all these interesting words. And then it allows a collaboration. We journey with our clients. It's a collaboration. It's all of those things are where the success rate of the sessions grow exponentially, because we can rub a whole lot of points and we know we will get results. But what's the difference between good and great? It's the next level of connection and perception. But that revolves around how well the process is facilitated by you when your client is with you.
And that is as somebody who's most of the people I'm sure who are listening to this have been our body worker, they're people in the community, they've had their hands on, they've had other people's hands on them. It's so clear, and it's so clear. And at the same time, I find conversations like this to be so important, because people will feel something and then not trust themselves, or not have the words, not have the they feel something and they think they get something that's wrong, feel it when they're working with somebody who's indifferent. I think there's a strong compulsion to like something was wrong, and take that something's wrong on themselves. because we are so, as a society, we're so mechanically focused, right? Like the three barmen, they make three of the same drink, they make three of the same drinks. It's like, well, they're all the same. Like, well, how come this guy's is so much better?
Yeah.
And I felt it myself. I'm like, I'm reasoning through it, being like, well,
that's why mama's a pasta always tasted so much better, because mama put a love in it, huh?
Exactly, right? Like, you know, my dad makes a really good, Sunday gravy. I don't know if you have Sunday gravy, but it's the, like, you know, it's kind of the everything in the fridge goes into the everything in the fridge goes into a pot. It becomes something magical. He makes it really it's always been something that he's done really, really, really well. And it's not that he's like, he never had like the best, he never had the best ingredients. He never had any of that. Like, he just had what he had. He's just really good at putting himself into it.
Ah.
And that's really important.
And it's not as easy as we'd like to think. You know, we really have to step inside ourselves. You can only give that which you've already got. And actually, the irony is, everything that we need, we've already got inside us. We don't have to go looking anywhere else. But often we don't know. It's been stored away and close that door. Oh, no, we don't go there. No, but all the good stuff's in there. You know, it's like, you know.
Trust me, that room's really good.
You know, all the, we have this amazing silverware, but we don't use it, only on special occasions. When's that? Probably once a year. But if it was that valuable, why wouldn't you bring it out and allow yourself that value every day? You know, and you know, the irony is, if we look historically, the nobility would eat with silverware. And what do we know about silver? Well, silver ions actually have all these different properties that are antiviral, antibacterial, all of these things. So therefore, they were healthier because they were using the silverware. So imagine, you know, my advice to anyone watching this is, if you have silverware hidden away, take it out, use it every day, and you will probably be a bit healthier. And you can claim to be nobility too. Bonus plan.
Yeah, take it out. Like, don't, like, there, that's, it's the, if there's anything that we can, if there's anything that we can all say, it's that, you know,
silver ions.
Oh, look at you with a W in there. so South African.
No, it's actually an Afrikaans couple, and they obviously just put the W there because it made it easier to have their own brand. But they are always at a market an hour and a half outside of Cape Town, and so Amy's folks live out that way. So whenever we go to the market, chocolate brownies, oysters, silver irons, you know, everything else is just on top of that. You know, you have to have your things you go for. Yeah. So yeah, but and the thing is, not saying that that's the, you know, the winningest winning of all, but it's just something that's there. So if I'm feeling a little offish, I just slug some, have a mouthful of it, just because maybe they just put love into it, and that's good molecules. I don't know, but I've been doing it for a heck of a long time, and if I've been in the sun too much, that's one of the things we spray on as well, because it seems to lessen the sunburn. Because, by the way, folks, don't get sunburned. It's not good for you. But sometimes if you're surfing too long, your sun cream wears off, you get sunburn. Or if you're like Matt and his friend, you're such in a rush that you forget to put it on. And when your father paddles out and says, "Have you put sun cream on?" they give this weird, wacky smile. So now his face is peeling. You know, it's how the game works. You know. But
sometimes you have to burn your hand. Sometimes you burn your hand on the stove. Sometimes you get this.
Yeah. That's how we learn too. You can't always just listen to your parents, or ever, apparently.
It's true.
So that's you said 1.5 to 2 hour sessions. I think that sounds awesome because you're allowing yourself the time to work effectively with your clients. What are the kind of things that you are seeing with your clients that kind of um, tweak your curiosity, make you go, that's cool? Because of course, if we're curious, that means as we're working, we're learning too. That's the point of curiosity.
Yeah.
It's the never stop learning.
Yeah. And the curiosity is honestly, that's the part that brings me back every time. Cause I crave the learning. That's why I'm always trying to, I go whenever like if there's conversations happening in a clinic, I'm sitting there, I'm listening to the conversations. I want to hear what other people are asking. I want to know what someone else thinks is important that I didn't know was important.
Well, Jeff, here's a little moment of the only reason we're doing these interviews. It's for you, buddy. So you can hear those conversations and you can learn stuff. Isn't that cool?
Isn't it cool? I love technology, right? making these things possible. My sessions, I have long sessions because I intentionally create a space with my clients where it's very permissive. The permission is emphatically there for them to become curious about themselves.
Cool.
I think that, a lot of the people I work with are, they're kind of, I would say, moderately athletic, right? They have some sort of a physical practice, and they're not making their living out of their physical practice. So I like moderately athletic.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound too judgmental.
I'm a weekend warrior.
Yeah, exactly. That's who they are. I find that it takes time during the session for them to stop doing things to please me, and to start doing things to make a shift to looking to introspection. When we set baseline in a session, the first thing that I ask somebody to do is like, hey, just let's take a couple minutes, just check in with yourself. And that process, at beginning, I might have to feed them options. Do a couple squats, do a toe touch.
They don't have a language or a framework. And some people do. Some people come in with, I do these 5 tests to myself every day. And well, awesome. Now you have your baseline already. But otherwise, you have to help someone find their baseline. Very cool.
Exactly. And it's like, I think about in a Be Activated clinic, right? Like, how long do we do check-ins? As long as it takes. And so creating that space for somebody to start to check in with themselves, sometimes that takes a long time. And as we go through the work, it's intentionally moving slowly between activations, between interventions, so that they can start to figure things out. They can start to pay attention to, they can start to develop a sensitivity to their experience of themselves.
Well, I think that's what I hear. I hear that you have decided on a structure that works for you because the intent of what you're doing is very clearly to empower your clients through their own learning process and their own curiosity. And so curiosity in your client is when, which comes up is we love it when clients go, this is awesome. What do I have to do to keep like this? Because that was their question, not me saying, and this is what I want you to do when you go home. Sometimes we do end up just having to do that, but it's really cool when we've empowered our client to actually, okay, tell me what I need to do because I like this. I want more of this. What do I have to do? Oh, well, now that you ask, and we know that if they've asked the question, the chances of them going and being aware, and they're going to be there, and they're going to do it, and they're going to be, I want to say more compliant, but compliant comes from old learning. It's they
Compliant,
are
compliance is my expectation as a practitioner is their compliance.
Absolutely. Whereas
not what I'm interested in.
they are going, I would say my goal would be that when my client leaves, I've given them tools to help them take care of themselves. But most importantly is they do it because they want to take care of themselves, not because Doug said I must.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that doesn't happen in the first session. It's not like, and because some people are freaking adamant, no matter how much you reframe it for them and give them curiosity and permission, hell no, fix me, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you left with
Mm-hmm.
the choice. And that's, you can go, sure, that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Or you can go, that's awesome. But this is also our last session because I don't think I'm the right person to work with you. And that's okay too. It's not a disrespect. It's actually, it is a respecting where someone's at, because if someone's not willing to do the work, it doesn't make them wrong. It just, for me, it's not how I work. So therefore one of us has to sacrifice or give up our place in order to travel further. And if that becomes our habit in our practice, that becomes our habit in our life. Or other way around, if that's the habit in your life where you are always giving up to what everybody else wants, then you're going to do that with your clients too. So these are the therapists, the trainers that come on the programs, and when we actually chat to them, they're exhausted. They're frustrated. They're angry because everyone's demanding and everyone, and I hear that, but that's in our patterning. That's in our, and I'm certainly finding that this online world, it's much friggin' harder for me to hold boundaries and be clear, because it's like, you wake up in the morning and you make a mistake of looking at your phone, or there's stuff, and it's like poof, oh, and suddenly it's whereas like, so there's all there's an adjustment, and it's a challenging of just how strongly do you hold that belief, or that wanting to be a certain way. And that's part of the game. We're all in a shifting ocean, and you still what's it, there's such a nice one about you can, no, I can't even think. I'm obviously, all my quotes that normally pop into my head are, they're floating on by just out of my reach. but that's why we surf.
You indexed a little too far onto Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss never went surfing. Yeah, I actually think I think it went onto my list about 8 weeks ago that I'd said to Tim, what I think I should do? I think I should read Cat in the Hat. And we're going to do a post where I read some of my favorite pages from Cat in the Hat. And he's like, what? Yeah, he's got kids. He's like, why would you do that? I go, because there's so much wisdom in it. It's like, come on. And he's like, yeah, okay. So maybe one day Uncle Doug will read Cat in the Hat. Who knows? But it does seem to suddenly be.
It wouldn't be the first. It wouldn't be first. I mean, we had the duck and everything. We've had the duck. We've had so many children. There's so much wisdom in children, in things that we make for children, because we want to shape children into these wonderful, like fully realized depth, like comfortable human beings, and then we go and do something else.
We tell them that you're amazing and you can do anything, but get back in your damn box with your mask on. Yeah, the mask's just a new feature, but the box is always there.
The box was always there. The mask is, and that's the thing. I know people that are not interested in wearing masks, and I'm like, and what, regardless of any judgment cast on that, it's like, well, like, and I'm in the States where everything is like, oh, they're taking freedoms. It's like, your freedom to go, your freedom, what freedoms are you talking about? Like, you have so many walls in your life, like, in this arbitrary wall is a problem, and then all of these other arbitrary walls aren't a problem. Like, what? I don't, like, it's a very difficult, like, I understand it because we all have boundaries, and from the outside, all boundaries can seem arbitrary. I just have such a hard time saying, like, it's like, oh, is it because this is visible? Is this because it's something that you have to physically do to yourself, as opposed to all of the other things that we just take for granted, and you just accept it as true?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, but it is
are
such
we
a
not like,
thing,
yeah.
because for us out here, we're on like a level 1, so everything's really open, but legally in public, you wear a mask. Every shop has a sign that says no mask, no entry. It's not a choice. It is a law, and that makes it easy, because it takes the debate away, which is good, because then at least there's a little bit of certainty. You might not like the mask, but you have to wear it. When I'm driving in my car, no, I don't have to wear it. But when I want to go into this shop to get something, then I do. And perfect. Sometimes the uncertainty is that too many choices. Do I wear it? Don't I wear it? If I wear it, then this. If I don't wear it, then that. And suddenly it's just one more uncertainty. You might be thinking it's freedom, but it's also uncertainty, and so it creates its own level of hesitation and doubt and conflict and all these other things, and takes away from us focusing on the stuff that needs to happen. Because So when we're focusing on things, and it's just my call that focusing on things which are actually kind of arbitrary, what we do is then we stop seeing the things that are kind of big, that are the big elephants in the room that nobody gets to, because it's almost like what pops up is, your brain has a set amount of decisions every day it can make. And this has been proven, and everyone's different on what that quota is. So the less arbitrary decisions you can make, the more effective your big decisions are going to be. So if you wake up in the morning and the first thing you go is, wow, which pair of socks should I wear today? Well, there's one decision. Which underpants should I wear? The Mickey Mouse ones, or the one with hearts? There's another decision. Tea, coffee, this, that, what? And it sounds so silly, but by the time like 9 o'clock rolls around, you've taken so many tiny arbitrary decisions that when you get to the one that's going to be really significant in your life, your brain goes, sorry, bud, I'm all done. And so just taking it back to the mask thing, I like the fact that we have to wear the mask. I don't like the mask, but I like the fact that we have to, by law, wear it, because now I don't have to think about it. It's one less thing to think about. People say to me, dude, you like, how many t-shirts do you actually have? Because, I'm sure you were wearing that one. I made the mistake, and it wasn't a recorded session, but I lifted up my arm the other day and someone went, Doug, you have a ginormous hole in your t-shirt. I was like, hell, how did that get there? It's an 8-year-old t-shirt, because Amy always says to me, why don't you wear those shirts there? Well, I said, because they're at the bottom of the pile. And she goes, what? Well, if it's at the top of the pile, I'll wear it, because I don't need to decide. I reach into my cupboard and I've picked the first one, second one, or third one. And so I'll wear pretty much anything as long as it's on 1, 2, or 3, because my brain has never been interested in deciding what I wear, because I don't really care. It's not important enough. So
I'm not interested in making that decision.
I have one pair of flip-flops. It's not a hard decision. The only decision is, where did I leave them? Or the question, where did I leave them? Go find them. But and the funny thing is, I've just always done that, but I know so many very successful people that you notice that when you see them doing presentations, they're always wearing the same stuff. Always, no matter what the presentation is. That's because they have 100 of the same t-shirts and the same pants, and so they don't have to decide, because they recognize that we have a limit in our decision making. So when we have all this freedom, apparently, all this freedom of choice and freedom while we're making decisions. And so what we're doing, and I'm sorry, the reason I need to be talking is talking is thinking for me. So and so the more arbitrary decisions I can make, you make, by the time you're going to make a serious decision, dude, you're already gone. That's actually quite an amazing, yeah. That's a cool that's a cool thing about. Can you imagine if someone actually thought of this and set it up? That would be even wackier. That would be, geez, that could be a super duper conspiracy theory.
I mean, so there's a book that I just finished reading called Dark Horse, and it's about people who have non-traditional careers. I can't imagine why I would read a book.
So hang on, Dark Horse. Was that is the sequel called Nightmare?
Yes.
I don't know. Hey, I'm out of Cat in the Hat.
No, I mean, so I, as far as I'm concerned, yes, that is the next book in the series, and I'm not going to look any further into it. But their fundamental the fundamental assumption is in our society, standardized industrial society built like post-industrial revolution with a standardized education system, post-industrial revolution, where everything essentially is people is a society that's built where the machinery is expensive, but the labor is cheap. That's the basis to specialization in industrial work.
Right.
And what we end up with as a result of that, education system, and then an education system that channels into a career system where you have the illusion of choice. You're told that you have choice, but what really you have is you're picking from a limited set of options.
Yeah.
And there's huge assets to that, like what you described. Like I'm the same way, right? Like I have 10 pairs of the same underwear, right? Like I don't ever feel like thinking about when I'm standing naked, and when I'm standing there naked, I don't really want to think about what's the first thing I'm going to put on. I have no interest.
Thanks, dude. I don't really want to think about you standing there naked, but that's now where you've left us.
You are a visual thinker. You are a visual thinker, right? So I and the same, right? Like those are places where I want to be picking, right? Like I want to pick an option that.
Yeah, but those are the big decisions. Those are the ones that influence where your life goes. But so if you've wasted your decision-making abilities or your quota, by the time you get there, you just like that one. Why that one? It just seems the closest, the easiest. I like the colors
because I feel like it.
Because I feel like it.
And so I have no interest. If we set ourselves up, and that's where I think that's where I find some of this, like the Stoics. I think are the Stoics. I think are great for this, where it's like, like automate everything that doesn't matter, right? Like my name is Doug. I wear a shirt on the top half of my body, right? I don't like, and what does wear a shirt mean? It means I reach into the cupboard, I grab this or this, and it really matter which one I grab. Whatever my hand lands on is fine. That's, those sorts of algorithms free ourselves up so that when we care about, when we want to think, when we want to learn, it allows us to have it allows us kind of the mental space to have the curiosity, to have that, like, to express the vulnerability, to have that internal vulnerability and authenticity that allows us to create a safe space for our clients.
Sure.
I
That
just took
is
12 steps
pretty
at the same
deep
time,
and
but I can
pretty
slow it down.
heavy. But what an awesome way to end part one. Because it's kind of, we have to free ourselves up in order to put ourselves in the best place possible in ourselves, for ourselves. And then when we're good at that, then we can easily share it with those around us, which includes our clients, because sharing it with the people we care about seems like the better place to do that.